customer friendly on steroids is the way to look at it, but it's beyond the typical customer service. And it's almost becoming obsessed and compulsive with a customer focus. Welcome to the Let's Get Entrepreneurial podcast, your go-to resource for navigating the world of entrepreneurship.
In this episode, we delve into how adopting a customer-centric approach can drive growth by fostering loyalty and retention, exploring actionable strategies that businesses can implement to build lasting relationships and turn satisfied customers into brand advocates.
The Let's Get Entrepreneurial podcast is your ultimate launchpad for igniting ideas and skyrocketing your entrepreneurial dreams. Tune in, buckle up, and let's unleash the entrepreneurial spirit within. Your two hosts will be Professor Gary Palin and serial entrepreneur Ryan Budden.
Hello, Ryan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. What about you, Professor Palin?
Doing well. Busy as always. I gather you're pretty busy also.
Exceedingly at the moment. Feeling the time crunch for sure.
Yeah, that's called being an entrepreneur. All right, well, let's jump right into it. Today's topic, I wanted to speak about the customer-centric approach to driving a business. And what that refers to is an organizational mindset where the customer is at the core of all business decisions and strategies. It's about understanding and meeting customer needs effectively. And when many people think of that, they're thinking of customer-friendly. It's different than customer-centric. Customer-friendly refers to the businesses that provide good service, respond with prompt, and treat their customers politely. It's a service-level approach. Customer-centric is beyond friendliness. It involves deep understanding of the customer's motivation, pain points, and desires, and you're really anticipating their needs.
And factoring them into every decision you're making. They're essentially the core persona of everything that you're trying to accomplish.
Customer-friendly on steroids is the way to look at it, but it's beyond the typical customer service, and it's almost becoming obsessed and compulsive with a customer focus.
Customer friendly these days is sort of an expectation, whereas what we're talking about is how you really bring that customer into everyday decisions.
If you do it properly, it can have a tremendous impact on your business growth, drives higher revenue. You can build trust and satisfaction of your customers at a higher level. There's a correlation of loyalty. There's some studies that show that 86% of consumers will pay more for a better customer experience, and 73% stay loyal with the brands that provide a customer-centric approach.
Those are some great stats. If nothing else, that's compelling enough to listen to the rest of this podcast.
The numbers don't lie, and if you can have tremendous spikes, as that data implies, it's something worth looking at.
Without a doubt.
When you're looking at this, you really want to get down to a granular understanding of the preferences and needs. Again, it's not just a service level. So you're relying very much on collecting data on consumer behavior, demographics, and interactions. Segmentation, you're looking at identifying patterns and tailor your offerings accordingly. And there are a tremendous amount of tools that we've talked about in previous episodes that can provide that type of information, in addition to surveys, various types of feedback, and even social media listening.
Social media is a big one now. That's where most companies are finding this sort of feedback. People aren't shy. People will tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly pretty willingly.
And with the technology at our fingertips, you can come down to personalizing your message based on an individual preferences. It can become that specialized.
With our ability to look at big data sets now in particular and zoom in on specific profiles, it might not be one individual, but it might be a group of your customers in a specific area of the country that have specific preferences. And you can cater your marketing and your engagement and even sometimes product customization around that smaller and smaller group.
Exactly. You can determine the content of your emails, your ads, and even your website experience based on understanding on a granular level the customer.
We talk a lot on this podcast about how you can keep up with market trends. If you're this focused on your customers and their preferences, you're inherently going to know what's going on in the market because they are dictating the market.
With the amount of options that are on their fingertips, you really have to listen to the customers at that level because they are truly in charge. They've always been the ultimate decision maker, but it's to a point of maximization at this point.
It absolutely is. Gone are the days where if you were the local vendor of something, you were just automatically chosen for it. We really have for a long time lived in a global marketplace. It's just becoming more and more competitive.
And you can implement, say, for example, a loyalty program could be an example of going to a customer-centric perspective. With the loyalty programs, you're incentivizing repeat type of business. You're encouraging referrals associated with that. That's something that I would suggest people, if it's pertinent to their target, would look at loyalty programs.
And even if it's not on face level pertinent to your market, seeing how you can incorporate that, because most business models can support some sort of loyalty or referral program. It's a powerful way to get trust built into the next customer and the next customer and the next customer.
Now, one area that I'm seeing lacking in many areas, it tends to be on retail establishments, is staff providing outstanding service. There tends to be an apathy, especially on the front line component. I'm not dissing the front line because there might be a reason they're not giving an incentive to provide high levels of service. If you want to train your staff on how to provide outstanding service, they may not know. And then also give them the tools and a reason for doing it.
You ended on the important note there, a reason. How do you engage? Just like you're engaging your customers, your staff members, you're right. I don't have any data to back this up as a trend, but it seems like the customer engagement from a retail perspective has slipped in the last few years.
And you face an awful lot of apathy, but that's an opportunity. If your competitors are giving poor service with apathy, that provides an opportunity and an opening for you to secure their customers.
The companies that are doing it well have these well-developed training programs that people are going through, whereas those that are not probably are relying on their mid-level management to just train the next employee up.
And you also want to empower your frontline personnel, if you will, to resolve issues, to turn a negative situation into a positive for a customer, and that can develop loyalty. Have you looked at any metrics for customer-centric?
Absolutely. We've highlighted the biggest one, and that's social platforms. There's quite a lot of data scraping that's going on in the field right now that can scrape multiple social sites and get common feedback. So they can actually do the analysis part for you by looking at reviews, engagement, what's trending, and give you really powerful insight. The other is the low hanging fruit, right? Do you have a support line? Like, what are the common issues coming to your company, whether that's through email, if you have a phone line, or however you gather those sort of troubleshooting techniques. I'm trying to use broad terms here in case you're running a service, whether that's an in-person service or software service, or even an actual product that you're selling.
Let me ask you this, when you're talking about using various tools, and you mentioned phone service, that's one of my pet peeves, is getting stuck in one of those voicemail loops from hell where I keep saying representative, representative, representative before I get to talk to an actual person. But I understand balancing that from a business perspective of the cost of using the technology, especially now using AI as responses to the customer versus talking to a live person. So you're balancing that type of experience versus there's quite a difference in cost. What are your thoughts on that?
It's hard, especially because there's an overlying trend of the younger generation not wanting to get on the phone. They actually prefer the chat systems and the support ticket systems that are set up very well. So you have the older generation, which I'll even include myself in, that would rather get on the phone and talk to somebody as quickly as possible to resolve a problem. That quality of service is becoming more expensive and more difficult to provide. And also the next generation doesn't actually prefer it. You've got two economic forces pushing down quality phone call options. And that makes it really hard for businesses to support that.
It's a juggling act. One of the areas that you look at is who's your target market. And I agree with you. I look at my students, they much more prefer to communicate with me digitally. There are times where you actually need to speak to a person. For example, I fly American Airlines all the time. I can do much of my issues if a flight's delayed or canceled using my smartphone. But there are times where it doesn't have the answer.
Without a doubt. You get to that proverbial, okay, I'm at the end of clicking through this support matrix and I still don't have an answer.
And there might be some outlying issue that I'm facing that's not in their automated system. And getting through to someone, especially when you're in a hurry trying to catch a flight, that's very, very frustrating.
It is, and that's a good example of a company that absolutely has to have support agents that are available to actually talk to you directly. There are a lot of businesses, however, that don't have any of them now.
But on the flip side, I don't know if I relayed the story. I was getting on a plane and I was sitting in my seat. I had been upgraded up to first class and my phone rang and I picked it up, and it was American Airlines letting me know that my flight was about to take off. They wanted to make sure I boarded. And apparently for some reason, when it scanned through, they didn't know I was on the plane. They probably thought I was sitting in the Admirals Club. And I'm thinking, wow, that is above and beyond. They called me.
That is above and beyond. I don't know that the average person flying any airline gets that treatment.
But it's an example of that's very customer-centric. They do it really well in specific applications. That gets tied to your loyalty program, which we talked about earlier.
That's exactly right. And that's how they're tracking customers that are loyal to them. So they're treating them with a greater degree of preference.
For those who aspire to go higher in their entrepreneurial journey, we've got something just for you. Coming up next.
Are you ready to unlock your entrepreneurial potential? Introducing the Janus Entrepreneurial Report, your personalized roadmap to success. In just minutes, discover your unique strengths and areas for growth. Whether you're a seasoned business pro or just starting out, the Janus Entrepreneurial Report will help you identify and leverage your entrepreneurial tendencies. Don't wait, visit Prospirit.com and start your journey to success today.
Now, let's dive back into our journey of entrepreneurial insights.
One of the things I like to look at is the customer lifetime value, not just what is that one transaction for. There are data sets where you can determine what is the profitability over the lifetime of securing and maintaining this customer. And then it helps you make decisions on how much to invest.
Without a doubt, it's really important to look at the customer lifetime value, because one sale for any company isn't going to make or break it. But if you have somebody that year after year, month after month, whatever time interval you're working with, it's coming back to you, then you're able to look at the dollars you're spending to engage with that person and justify it.
Well, any final thoughts before we wrap up on the customer-centric model?
Even if you're not going to change every decision-making pattern in your organization, it's really important to keep in mind the customer is the one paying the bills at the end of the day. So maybe integrating a little bit of this customer-centric approach can get you farther down the line.
Yeah, I would agree. And if just from listening to some of the ideas we had, I would suggest anyone review what the current process is. And are there one or two things that they can change and track those to see if they get results? And if they're very positive, then you can implement more and more.
That's a great way of putting it.
Let's get entrepreneurial.
Let's get entrepreneurial.
As we wrap up another episode of the Let's Get Entrepreneurial podcast, we extend our gratitude for your presence and attention. Your dedication to the entrepreneurial spirit fuels our passion for creating this podcast. Check out profspirit.com to discover resources and courses designed specifically for innovators like you. Stay on the cutting edge by following us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, and other platforms as it is released. Until then, keep the entrepreneurial flame burning.